Go ahead, please.
The Environmental Health Registration Board meeting is convening at 9:02 a.m. on Friday, March the 3rd, 2023 at the Health Licensing Office in Oregon. Telephone conference call. I will now call roll. Scott Kruger's present. Rhonda Robb.
Present.
Bonnie Simpson.
Present.
Sean Rochette.
Present.
And Eric Lamb.
Present.
Oh, sorry, we got more to do.
Yes.
Members, when you wish to speak, please state your last name for the record. Board members are asked not to use the chat feature during meetings. Public members wishing to speak must first sign in on the roster sheet available. For public members calling in on the public phone line, please email April Fleming at april.fleming@oha.oregon.gov and provide your first and last name. Public and interested parties' feedback may be heard during the public interested parties' feedback period if indicated on the agenda. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting board business. This meeting is called to order.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the board, this is Bob Bothwell with the Health Licensing Office, Interim Director. Chair, if you want to keep rolling along, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. So if we can get someone to make a motion to approve the agenda, if everybody approves of it.
This is Rob. I approve the agenda.
If we can get somebody to make a second.
Eric Lamb, second.
And Chair, if you'll do a roll call, please.
Yep. So motion has been made and I will call the roll. Scott Kruger, aye. Rhonda Robb.
Aye.
Bonnie Simpson.
Aye.
Sean Rochette.
Aye.
Eric Lamb.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Good morning again, board and chair and board. This is Bob Bothwell with the Health Licensing Office. Next on the agenda are my reports, and I've got a couple of things before I get to the financials and all. I will go through our board registration. Currently, we have Scott Kruger, and you're in your second full term, which expires June 30th, 2026, and you cannot reappoint.
Mm-hmm.
Our environmental health wastewater specialist, Bonnie Simpson, the vice chair, she's in her first term, and it expires June 14 of this year, and you can reappoint. Rhonda Robb is our environmental health wastewater specialist, also in second full term, which expires November 5 of 2025 and cannot reappoint. And our other wastewater specialist, Sean Rochette. Did I say it right, or is it Rochette?
Rochette.
Okay, sorry about that. First full term, which expires March 24th of 2026, and you can reappoint. And Dr. Eric Lamb, the physician on the board, first full term, which expires June 29th of 2026 and can reappoint. Currently we have our perpetual food industry representative spot vacant and a public member spot vacant. So if anybody knows of anybody in the food service industry that would like to be on the board, we'll take them. And a public member as well. I've been here 11 years and I think we've had one food industry representative on the board.
I would like to note that the Oregon Environmental Health Association has that posted at their opportunities section on their webpage.
Excellent, very good. Okay, and nobody has any questions about their term or the open vacancies. I'll move on to our legislative piece. And by count, I've not seen the number myself, but I keep hearing there's about 3,000 bills at the legislature. Thank goodness. A small fraction only belongs to HLO, and not much affects this board with the exception of House Bill 3065, which allows out-of-state applicants seeking occupational licensure in Oregon who meet our standards and are already licensed in another state and are seeking employment in the Eastern Oregon Border Economic Development Region. If they have a license and they can certify that they're going to be working or living in that area, then occupational license regulatory boards will be issuing licenses to those individuals.
This is Scott Kruger.
Yes, sir.
Does that also include Curry County?
I believe the Eastern Oregon economic border is, I didn't see the writing myself, but in the analysis, it's, I think, 20 or 25 miles from the border.
Okay,
So where's Curry County? Is that on the coast?
it is.
Okay, no, this is Eastern Oregon.
It's just specific to their, okay.
Mm-hmm. So there are other bills I was looking for. Professional licensing boards. So Senate Bill 849, professional licensing boards and agencies that oversee licensing. Oh, no, that's not the one, but I will continue on with it. It's a cultural push to have professionals that are licensed, that English is not their first language, to get them through the process. HLO and other regulatory boards will help them through the process. We'll provide them with reading material and documentation in their language applications and so on and so forth to help them through the process. Senate Bill 1053 requires professional licensing boards to consider experience in lieu of high school diplomas. I don't think that would really affect your board because you can't get a license unless you go through university, right? I am looking for that other one. There's so many of them. So I can't quote the bill, but there is a bill that is trying to help the shortage of licensed professionals in the state. That if somebody is licensed in another state and in good standing, and they apply for licensure in Oregon, we will likely issue them a registration or a license. So I can't tell you how that affects all the boards and your board specifically, but of course there's the equivalency, substantially equivalent to Oregon statutes and rules. So, and that one was pretty fresh off the press, so I don't have a lot of information about it. Any questions about those that I've read off that we can try to answer? Excellent. So moving on, if you're looking at your computer, we're going into slide 7 and 8. So in the last 3 quarters, we have issued 91 licenses, and in the last quarter, actually the last 2 quarters, quarter 2 and quarter 3 of fiscal year 23, we've issued 12 environmental health specialist licenses and 5 environmental health specialist trainees registrations. On slide 9 is our renewals, or the board's renewals, and the vast majority do it online, as you can see in this fiscal year of 2023, which we are about 7 months into, we've 137 licenses were renewed in that time frame, and looks like more than 2/3 are renewing online. Wastewater specialist renewals on slide 10 in fiscal year 23. Again, we've issued 4. Licensed by age and gender. It's almost a break-even profession. With a total of 294. And if everybody's looking at the slide, it's very close. Wastewater specialists on slide 12 by age and gender. Again, it's very close. The licensing trends for environmental health specialists is pretty static. In quarter 1 of 21, there was 247, and currently there's 258, so we've gained 10. Trainees in quarter 1 of 21, there was 38, and currently in quarter 3 of 2023, there's 37. Wastewater specialists, there's 9. And there has been 9 for a few years. Any questions on those?
Hey, this is Scott Kruger. I just have one question. Is it possible to know, when I'm looking at the licensed issue report, specifically with quarter number 2 and quarter number 3 for the trainee licenses that were issued, is it possible to know what county those were issued to? Because my understanding is those people would have to be gainfully employed before they could get a trainee license. Is that correct?
No,
It is not correct.
no.
You can get a trainee license without actually having a place to go.
That gets people in a lot of trouble sometimes.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
And to answer your question, folks who get a license from HLO, we don't require them to tell us where they're working. The address that's provided to us is the county of their residence, not employment.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Bob, this is Tina,
Go ahead, Tina.
but not when they're a trainee. They tell us they have to be connected to a supervisor, and they would tell us where they're working at.
But that's not recorded. That's recorded in Elite, or is it recorded just by documentation?
Yeah, it's just a documentation. It's just recorded by who their supervisor is, which would not tell us county.
Okay. Any other questions? And I'll just caveat, we do have questions like that come up periodically with some of our boards, especially for Eastern Oregon, where there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of money for the counties to hire professionals that we license, including this board. And so there's usually a workaround to get work done in those outerlying counties. I can't speak specifically for Curry County, but I don't know what we can do, what HLO can do, or the board can do to answer those questions for you, Chair. But if you want to, we can bring it up later in the board meeting for under other board business, and we can discuss it a little bit,
Sure.
and we'll try to come up with a game plan of something that HLO can lawfully do to answer the questions for you, or at least to get you the data.
Thank
All right.
you.
My pleasure. Slide 14 is the board's cash balances, and board's very well. We have an ending cash balance from July 22 to today, or well, when this report was run, which was 2/21, of $251,364. And the little boxes below show the board's shared assessment, which basically keeps the board afloat, HLO rolling along, and it's a percentage, 0.3%, 0.38% in most cases on this report. The small board assessment, because there's more small boards than there are our larger boards. This board pays currently 2.76%. And as you see through there, it does fluctuate. Examinations, it's a very low percentage, 0.015 currently, and it was 0.06 in the previous fiscal year, and even lower in the other years. Okay, if there's no questions on that, we can go on to the regulatory report. And the interim regulatory manager, Tramper Shuck, is now on screen.
Hello, everyone. I think can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So here's the regulatory report. As you can see, there are actually 3 biennium on there. There was one kind of hanging on from that 2019 biennium. You know, in open session, I can't really talk too much about any particular case, but I can say that this one is got stalled, but is moving on again. So we should have a resolve on that, you know, definitely by the next meeting. But otherwise, you know, we're looking pretty good, I think. You know, we had 4 cases come in that biennium, all but 1 are closed. We have the next biennium, the 2021. We don't have any open any longer. We had only 5 come in, and then the current biennium, as you can see, we're not all the way through it, but we've had about 3 come in, which kind of tracks along the same line. So it doesn't seem to be getting any, you know, going up or down, any major fluctuations in the number of complaints coming in. And you can see off to the right, you know, the types of complaints that have come in kind of broad categories: licensing, safety and sanitation, and service issues. So you can see that many of them are actually licensing concerns. But this one, we actually had a few that kind of came in that were services issues, and those could be all kinds of things from, you know, improper services that weren't up to standards, the ethical issues, unprofessional conduct, those types of things. It could be anything in that larger group of services provided. Did anybody have any questions about this report or cases or investigations in general or anything like that I can talk about?
This is Scott Kruger. It would be interesting to understand services provided a little more in depth. I think honestly, it's kind of good for us to know if people are calling out the services that were provided. And I'm not asking for specific names, but generally speaking, it would be nice to know what are people complaining about those services.
So I can tell you, under that services provided, like I said, it could be kind of a wide range. I would have to look back and see what the 19 case one was. I'm not sure what that was in that biennium. That was a while ago. I could take a guess, but I would just be guessing. The current cases that came in were not so much. They were actually, like I said, without saying too much, I believe they were actually related. The three, they came in as a group, and services provided, I believe, are more of along the line of an ethical or professional conduct type of situation, rather than like somebody did something weird during an inspection or something like that. So, but you know, yeah, go ahead.
Travis and Chair, members of the board, Nathan Goldberg has his hand up. He did many of those cases prior to moving on to a different position. So Nathan, did you want to speak to this?
Yes, I was just going to tell you, I could pull up here what the services provided one were. And I don't know how much detail. Generally, there was a directive from a supervisor
We don't want to discuss that.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, they are related. Yes.
Yeah. So thanks, Nathan.
Yep.
So what I can tell the board is there was a previous case. Services provided was the licensee was documenting that he was doing inspections when he was actually going to the park and taking a nap.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Right.
Licensing concerns, I can share that we do have periodically trainees that purport themselves to be not trainees. You know,
they drop the training designation off of their business card or something like that. It doesn't get put on their business card or their email. Yeah, that's right.
And a lot of times, and this is Bob again. And a lot of times it's their fault / not their fault. The county or wherever they're working may not, when they print their business cards, it doesn't say, they don't print trainee on them all the time. So there are complaints like that.
Also, they sometimes come in where somebody is just flat out either doing the duties of an environmental specialist, like in a like a, you know, in some setting like a school or a restaurant, or even or a plant or something like that, or they are being designated or called that by their employer. They aren't necessarily even calling it themselves, but they're being called that by the employer. Trying, you know, using that word, maybe not realizing that, using that phrase, not realizing that it's actually a licensed profession that is very specific. They're using it in a general term or something like that. So they come in all forms, or sometimes they're actually just practicing without a license. You know, they're practicing with an inactive license. Those types of things come across under the licensing as well. But the services provided, Bob, I think covered. Now that he said that, those spur my memory to a couple of the different types of services provided that we have had.
Rhonda.
Hi, so this is Rhonda Robb. I just wanted to confirm for trainees, it's okay for them to put, is it okay for them to put EHST on their business cards, or does trainee have to be spelled out?
I think as long as they are being mindful that it's a trainee, they're being a trainee. However, if they just put EHST on there, HLO would probably recognize that that's what the nomenclature is on the card. Somebody else might not, but so to talk a little bit about investigations, when we get a complaint, the regulatory manager reviews it first, you know, and then he may actually have his assistant send an email to the complainant asking if they are aware that this person, you know, for example, might be a trainee. and they may respond, yes, I know they're a trainee, but it doesn't say trainee on their card. So we'll have a little bit of dialogue with the complainant, and then if the complainant's like, well, it doesn't say trainee, but the T might mean trainee, I don't know. And, we will open the complaint, but we'll close it due to, insufficient information or not enough information to, conduct an investigation.
Okay, and does that go for their signature line as well on their email?
We have had those, and that gets resolved almost as simple as we look at it and we contact the respondent and ask them to please, put on their email that they're a trainee. Don't report that you're, an environmental health specialist, not a trainee, right? So, a lot of them, you guys, this board doesn't see a lot of their cases because some of the licensing issues, as you can see, is the biggest bulk of them. And this is pretty much how we resolve them. But we have in the past sanctioned folks for working without a license, but not necessarily not calling themselves a trainee, because we understand, like, the county has their way of doing things, and when you put in a requisition for business cards, it just has your name and your job on it, right? So, yeah, does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Any other questions we can answer? Very good. Thank you, Trampus. Chair, members of the board, phone kept going on and off, so I don't know if we have somebody on the line or not. Let me find out. Hi, good morning on the public telephone line. This is Bob Bothwell with the Health Licensing Office. Is there anybody on the public telephone line?
That's weird that the music's not
Yeah.
going.
So apparently there's nobody that wants to speak anyway. We usually have some sort of melody in our ear while we're trying to conduct a meeting, and there's no melody. So I think, somebody might be there, but just is not wanting to speak. Okay, moving on. Chair, if you're okay, we'll go to other board business.
Yes.
Okay, so you had a question, or the board has a question about identifying what counties may have environmental health specialists, or can you phrase your question to me again, please?
I was just curious if the trainee licenses, and I'm sorry, this is Scott Kruger, if we could know where the trainee licenses were being issued, was my question. It's county specific. And I suppose if we just got supervisor information, we're a small cohort of people and we know who supervisors are. I just would be curious to know where they're being hired and where they're working.
I'm going to turn to Nathan Goldberg if he's still there.
Yes.
Are we able to extrapolate the information that the chair is asking about?
Well, I have another board. We have another board, the midwife board, and SOTB that have those stats pulled up, but that is again based on, in Elite, is based on the address they give us. Although it appears from what I've seen most of the time, the address they give us is the county or area in which they're working. So probably with a few deviations, but that's how we map it out for the other boards that want that information.
Does that help? Well, I guess that'll be a start.
Sure.
I can even map it out. We like the SOTBs, we actually put it on an Oregon map and it puts how many in each county, or you can just have a list either way. So whichever you prefer, I can put on the board report.
Yeah, just a list is fine.
Okay.
Nathan, is that counties, a residence, or are you gonna?
I think we do physical address. I can do either address, but I think the physical address is the one that became more accurate than the mailing.
Okay.
Although they end up being in the same county most of the time anyway, both addresses.
Okay. Moving forward, did the board want this to be a one-time report, or do you want it to continue to run as we have board meetings? So it's just a graph, kind of like the other graphs that you see, the number of licensees and who's, what's happening with the profession.
Would like the other board members to weigh in on that topic. I think from my perspective, being a board member, but also being a member of OEHA and the National Environmental Health Association, it would be kind of good to know where those people are so that we could reach out to them and introduce ourselves to them. And I know that they get, new sanitarian training through the state, but it would be nice to be able to reach out to those and let those folks know, some of the other functions that we're doing in the background as well.
So
Is that possible? I mean, now have I stepped out of bounds?
yeah, that would put us out of bounds.
Okay, well, then I guess I'm gonna recant my request then, because that's really where I would be going, is be able to reach out to those people and be able to introduce ourselves, but if that's not possible, then I guess we should not do that.
Right. So we do have our website, and you're talking about licensees, correct? Or
I'm specifically talking about trainees,
trainees?
new
Okay.
people coming into the system.
Okay. Well, we do have our website, and most of the communication out to individuals pretty much has to come from the associations.
Right. So I suppose, just going through the website, it would be able to actually do a query on trainee licenses and see what's currently out there, because I know I can look up myself and we can all look up each other. So I don't know if it gets that specific, but I suppose that's public information that's available.
Nathan, are they able to look at a group of licenses?
They can, but you're not going to get a specific address. But I just will tell you this: if you send me a request via email, the public records law allows me to release specific information, including an email address. So all you'd have to do is send me an email saying, "Hey, I need a current list of all active trainees," and within a day or so, I can send you that email or that list back in a spreadsheet so you can contact them.
That'd be great. I would actually like to, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to introduce myself. This is Scott Kruger again. Rhonda, do you think that that's valuable? Do you think that has value to be able to reach out to those folks if they're new?
What would we ask, this is Rhonda, what would we reach out to them for?
Well,
mean,
I'm
it'd be
thinking
great
just introducing them to OEHA or some other background functions that most of our group are at, and introducing ourselves. And
yeah, I think for the OHA, it would be valuable for sure.
okay. Well, that's really what my intent was.
Yeah. So we can provide you the information,
Right.
but since this is a public meeting, what we'll need to do is we will bring the data to the next board meeting. But as the board chair, we can certainly provide you the information as well, so you have it.
Right.
And
well, that's pretty easy, that we can make a records request and get a list, and
yeah, so
that's fine too.
Yeah, so yeah, go ahead and send Nathan an email, and we'll make sure that we bring the data to the next board meeting, one-time deal.
Cool.
And so we're clear, it'll be the counties of where the individuals reside, not the individuals themselves, but the count.
Sure.
Okay.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns? Seeing none. Chair, if you would like, you may adjourn the meeting.
The Environmental Health Registration Board meeting is adjourned at 9:37 a.m. on March the 3rd, 2023.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody.